Good evening, Israel. This is Israelite Prepper. Man, a lot of stuff is going on in Venezuela. Now, some of you may be wondering, why are we going to talk about Venezuela? Well, Venezuela is an example of what may be happening in America right here. Same thing that happened in Greece. Same thing that happened in, was it in India? I have to look back at that. But all these small collapses are right at our front door. They are coming. It could be coming our way. And if we're not ready, we could be suffering some of the same tragedies that are befalling the citizens in these other countries. But an article came out today regarding Venezuela, and it's in actually the Miami Herald came out today, which is the 21st of December, 2016. And it says from the Miami Herald, so you can look this up yourself, Venezuela unsafe for Americans and its own. It says Venezuela has been racked by an economic crisis with soaring inflation and shortages of commercial goods. Most economists blame the woes on price controls, falling prices for oil export, heavy government spending, and production crippling policies that gave Venezuelans lots of money but little purchasing power. That's from the AP. Let's move on a little bit more. The situation continues to go from bad to worse in Venezuela, so much so that the U.S. Department has warned Americans that it is dangerous to live in or even visit that country. So if you guys are planning on going to Venezuela, I would probably change my plans if I was you, at least according to this particular article in the Miami Herald. Continuing, the State Department's Security Advisory Council last week sent the following message via Twitter. It says, travel warning. If the security climates worsen, U.S. citizens should be aware that they are responsible for making arrangements for their exit from Venezuela. Continuing, chilling words if you're an American living in Venezuela. The advisory also said Americans should not or shouldn't travel to the deteriorating South American country because crime and social instability has exploded. The State Department also emphasizes that the political and security situation in Venezuela is unpredictable, a moment-to-moment exercise. In the past, Venezuelan authorities have arrested U.S. citizens with no evidence that they committed crimes. These red alerts are no surprise. The economic crisis has created a situation of precariousness and anguish amongst the population. It would here as well. And among the hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans who live in the exile in South Florida. In the latest twist, on Tuesday, just as quickly as the Venezuelan government announced the January 2nd closing of its borders with Colombia, where desperate Venezuelans dashed for goods, the order was rescinded. That came days after President Nicolas Maduro annulled all 100 bolivar notes, like a $100 bill, 100 bolivar notes, leading to massive lines at banks and making cash transactions difficult. But he then changed course late Saturday, announcing the notes could be used until January 2nd. Before that announcement, riots and looting broke out in several cities. Brothers and sisters, what do you think would happen here if we had some sort of financial collapse? It is all about human behavior, groupthink, and it's what's going to happen. Our natural, our base instincts will come out in a desperate situation. So we need to be aware of that. Let's read a little bit more. Last week, the National Assembly declared the national crisis the political responsibility of President Maduro. But on Tuesday, the Supreme Court of Justice, a Chavista entity, annulled the parliamentary trial, claiming that the Assembly's actions were unconstitutional. Despite a crumbling government, Mr. Maduro persists in keeping the remains of Chavismo afloat. But by now, he should admit that his system is not viable. In fact, it is doomed. Still, he's playing Santa Claus too. The government confiscated 2.8 million toys from a distributor that Mr. Maduro claims hoarded them in a scheme to claim a shortage and charge higher prices. And now the president will oversee the distribution of toys. We will not let them be robbed of Christmas, an official with the country's Consumer Protection Agency said on Twitter. How touching. He can hand out all the toys he wants. Venezuelans won't be fooled. They know they have been robbed of so much more than a holiday. President Maduro has a tenuous hold on a regime that represses opposition demonstrations, suffocates private enterprise, creates a shortages of food and other commodities, and offer no hope to a tired population. As for Americans, the State Department has already indicated that traveling to Venezuela is dangerous, and the warning should be taken seriously. Venezuela is a country on the edge. So it's going to be up to you guys if you want to travel to Venezuela. It's going to be up to you guys if you want to ignore the symptoms and the signs. And I think we should simply be thankful that we can get sort of a heads up. Thankful that we can see some of these things bursting at the seams somewhere else first. Not that these things that are happening are necessarily good. That's not what I'm saying. But for us to have an opportunity to kind of look at the situation, then we can have the forethought as to, well, what are we going to do if something like that should happen to us? If tragedy and economic collapse should happen to us, well, what are we going to do? Now, what we can do is sit back like Americans normally do, and we can say, well, it won't happen to us. We can put our head in the sand and say, hey, you know what? That's just a little isolated event. It couldn't happen to us. So the question is, did they have those same thoughts? Did Germany have its same thoughts when it had their collapse? Greece, Venezuela? And I could go on and on and on. But I'm sure you get my point. So, brothers and sisters, we can take heed, keep stacking, keep prepping. Until next time, shalom.